Thank you. So the meeting been properly posted and the roll been taken?
Yes.
All right, item number 2 is pledge of allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item number 3 are approval of the minutes, 3.1 minutes from November 15th and minutes from November 22nd special meeting. If there's no additions or corrections, I'd go ahead and entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Move.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item number 4 is communications. Communications this evening. I'm moving on to item number 5, our public comments. Citizens may address the chair at this point in the meeting. All I would ask is that you limit your comments to items that are on tonight's agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to make public comments at this time? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to item number 6, which are reports of committees, boards, commission, and the Delavan School District. Item 6.1, Finance Committee and the financial reports.
The Finance Committee met on December 13th at 5 o'clock. Our next meeting will be January 10th at 5. There's a number of items on tonight's agenda. Minutes of the meeting are filed with City Clerk for public inspection. And at this time, I would make a motion to approve the financial report.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Alderman Deshner Brand. Item 6.2, general operations. Alderman Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. General Operations Committee met on December 6, 2022. The police activity report consisted of relocating some detective offices to Darien. The chief also outlined procedures being developed for handling special events, as well as hiring a new officer. Winter parking is in effect. The department continues to work to remove abandoned vehicles, including cars, boats, RVs. The building and zoning administrator Walsh indicated Geronimi Builders has started the work in the new apartments and 2 new homes are going up. And the city administrator Wilson report noted that he attended a meeting at the Walworth County regarding the future of EMS. Speaking, the county is also determining a grant funding program for new radios for police and fire. The business was sent to the Common Council, will be coming up later in this meeting, and the next QOC will be January 3rd, 2023.
Item 6.3 is the Planning Commission. Alderman Beazer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Planning Commission has not met since the last council meeting. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023 at 5 p.m.
Thank you, Alderman Beazer. Item 6.4 is Public Works. Alderwoman Deshner Brand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public Works met on November 29th at 5:30. Our next meeting will be on January 24th at 5:30 here.
Thank you, Alderwoman Deshner Brand. Item 6.5, Town of Delavan Lake Committee. Alderman Beazer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Town of Delavan Lake Committee had a change at the last minute due to problem with their email system going down, and there was not enough members present to make a quorum, so there was no meeting held.
Thank you, Alderman Beazer. Item 6.6, Library Board of Trustees. Alderwoman Deshner Brand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Library Board of Trustees met on December 15th at 5:30, and our next meeting will be on January 19th at 5:30.
Thank you, Alderwoman Deshner Brand. Item 6.7, Parks and Recreation Commission. Alderman Purcell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did too much to do with Park and Rec, get that winter Plan Commission look out, but we will be going back to January 23rd at 5:30 for next meeting.
Thank you, Alderman Purcell. Item 6.8, Communications Commission. Alderman Luis Solis would normally give that update, and I know he wasn't able to be here this evening, so they did not meet since our last city council meeting. I don't believe a meeting date has been scheduled at this time for the upcoming new year. So item 6.9, the Delavan Downtown Project Management Team, Alderwoman Dexter Brand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The downtown project management team has not met since the last council meeting. Our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, January 24th at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Alderwoman Dexter Brand. Item 6.10, Delbrook Golf Commission. Alderman Purcell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing on golf right now, but I've been kind of looking through it. We're not having a meeting at all this month. I think we might have one in February. And once I get those details, what day it's gonna be, I will let everyone know.
Thank you, Alderman Purcell. Item 6.11, the Tourism Commission. Again, Alderman Solis would normally give it, but I know our administrator, Wilson, is on with us virtually in a much warmer place than we are. We're all jealous.
Where's he at?
Did you, isn't one, did you want to just give us a quick brief on the last tourism?
We have not met since the November meeting, and I know that was reported at the last council meeting. The next meeting will be Monday, January 9th, 5 p.m. And I know that recently we did have some meetings with the chamber regarding some of the financial issues, and they are supposed to be getting a budget and a discussion to us in January to show their expenses as Visit Delavan during 2022 and their projected budget for 2023. So that'll be a good meeting to kind of really kick off the year well with a new director there.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Item 6.12 is the Delavan Darien School District. We have an update this evening. Thank you, Alderwoman Dexter Brand, for the memo. We'll move on to item number 7, issues that came before the Finance Committee. 7.1 is consider an amendment to the contract with Markley Municipal Services for landlord licensing, vacant building inspection, and code enforcement services.
I would make a motion to approve an amendment to our contract with Markley Municipal Services for landlord licensing and vacant building inspection and code enforcement services, providing for on average 20 hours of work per week at a 2023 hourly rate of $50 and an allowance for after hours call in at $75 per hour rate.
All right. There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item 7.2 is consider a general engineering services agreement with Baxter and Woodman for 2023, which agreement shall provide for not to exceed $85 per hour for up to 400 hours.
I would make a motion to approve the 2023 municipal engineering services agreement with Baxter and Woodman at $85 per hour for outlined services as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
How do you get such a good rate?
We've done it for years.
There's no further discussion. There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item 7.3 is consider a proposal for the 2023 insurance coverage to the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Insurance.
I would make a motion to approve the 2023 insurance program through the League of Wisconsin Municipalities Insurance for a total estimated cost of $309,819.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, and we have a roll call.
Excuse me, Alderman Purcell,
Yes.
Alderwoman Dashner Grant,
Yes.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
Alderman Beezer.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 7.4 is consider employee recognition for 2022.
I would make a motion to approve an employee recognition bonus of $200 for regular, full-time, and part-time employees.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Yes.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify, or actually, maybe we have a roll call on this as well.
Alderwoman Dashner Grant,
Yes.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
Alderman Beezer,
Yes.
Alderman Purcell.
Motion passes. Item 7.5 are approval of the bills warrant 2022-11.
I make a motion to approve warrant 2022-11.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item number 8 are issues that came before the General Operations Committee. 8.1 is consider approval of a Class B fermented malt beverage and Class C wine license for Yoshi at 1823 East Geneva Street in Unit F. Zuping Lee is the agent.
Okay, I'll make the motion. We approve the Class B fermented malt beverage and the Class C wine licenses to Yoshi at 1823 East Geneva Street, Unit F.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item number 9, other business, 9.1. Consider the mayor's appointments to the Tourism Commission. This is actually done a little differently than some of our April normal transitioning appointments. So this committee and this committee only seem, according to the ordinance, that are done in December for a 1-year calendar term. So although there's no names here, this would be, I think what the motion in effect would be to reappoint Dave Securis, Lori Wetke, Alderman Baton, and Alderman Luis Solis. At this time, there is one opening, and according to statutes, that one would come from the Development Committee. So I'm still out there looking to get one specifically that would address those types of marketing for the industrial park and that sort of thing. So if there's anyone that would care to make that motion, I appreciate it.
So move.
All right. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item 9.2 is consider a land donation to the Delavan Park or Fest Park of a 3,000 square foot fenced-in dog park.
I'll move to approve the proposed land donation from the Delavan Road Department property as an extension of the Delavan Fest Park by lot line adjustment.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
This park would be fairly small. Are we still looking at another dog park, or would this be it?
We gotta get started with at least one.
Okay, so we,
After all
there is
the-
potential,
Huh?
there is potential for a larger one?
It might be, but after all, we've been through for 18 years, at least get this done. And then we'll go from there.
I've reached out to Dr. Sorby regarding the interpretation of the statute. And I'm waiting to hear back from her and her attorney and the school district's attorney. So, we are filing
Thank you.
Do you know
Thank you.
we're gonna have to change our insurance coverage over there? Cover that dog part?
I have not asked.
It's hard to say being a school, but if we do this one, let go from there. I mean, it's, we can adopt a foreign baby quicker than this. So let's go for this.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item 9.3 is considered the fire department request to propose a referendum to permanently raise the levy limit for EMS services.
Mr. Mayor, perhaps this should, did this go through finance and GOC at all?
This hasn't gone to GOC.
I'm not finance.
Perhaps the committee should look at it first.
Yeah. Could I speak?
To answer your question, it hasn't, but I know we did have a very nice meeting yesterday, and so I'll let Chairman of GOC.
The mayor, the fire chief, a citizen from finance, the city clerk and I met yesterday on the EMS subject. There's clearly a need, or people could die waiting for EMS services. We are the last municipality in the area contracting this service out. When we need backup, it's necessary to contact another city. We budgeted for a brand new backup ambulance as well as some equipment in 2023. This should help. We believe that a $2 million referendum would be a very difficult sell at this time. It would lead to almost a 37% increase in our taxes for the average house. The time restrictions and laws to roll out such a referendum take around a year, from what I understand. We are still under contract with medics until December of 2023. And in 2024 would be most likely the soonest that we could take over this service. However, we have a preliminary plan and the tools to work with the fire chief. We would like to send this to GOC and then to finance to discuss and formulate the preliminary plan that would possibly include the hire of one EMT lead man, which would be outside the budget midway through 2023, and discuss a plan to hire a company to help roll out the referendum in 2024, so we can make it more palatable to the citizens of Delavan.
Thank you, Alderman.
Is that close enough, Tim? Would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I was gonna call on you next anyway.
All right, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Alderman. Yeah, when city administrator and I discussed this referendum idea has been kind of kicked around the last 2 years. I think it financed the budget process, or at least that there would maybe a need. So what Brian had suggested is that we get the information to the council and all the committees, and that gives us some time, a barometer, so to speak, of the scope of the situation. So with the advice of the city administrator and the mayor, we just wanted to bring this entire issue to the forefront in that way. And we know these referendums take a long time. And we know that typically it's just a great idea to hire, somebody to do this. But we don't want it to die on the vine, so to speak. So I appreciate our city administrator and the mayor asking us to at least inform folks, not only in this room, but in the city, of our situation. So we've had some great help from our city clerk and a number of other folks, and it's going to be a long process. And we would rather, of course, do it right than do it fast. But yet, our lack of volunteers in at least the EMS side of the house and full-time employees is a nationwide problem. I just copied an article I'll get to you from the Janesville Fire Department on their situation, because all the departments around them are relying on them. So, but anyway, a quick synopsis of what we're trying to do. Most of you in this room know this story, but Delavan Rescue Squad Incorporated was a private organization that served this community since 1954. I was a member of that for 38 years and the MT for 38 years. And so Delavan has never had an EMS publicly funded employee system as part of our EMS. It's always been private from the very beginning of the Rescue Squad in 1954. When we built the fire station, which believe it or not is 11 years ago, you folks authorized it almost 13 years ago, and it was completed 11 years ago. Neil Flood and Mayor Noonheis went to Delavan Rescue Squad and said, would you like to be part of the fire station? Delavan Rescue Squad very clearly said, no, we're good. We have a brand new building up on Enterprise Drive. Thank you for asking, but we don't see any need for that in the near or distant future. So we built the fire station based on the fire department's needs, including some bunk rooms that were very minimal at the time. We built the fire station. We were in there a little over a year. Delavan Rescue declared bankruptcy. And Denise Peroni had been administrator for about 3 months, as I recall, because our former administrator had done the groundbreaking and everything. And she came to me and said, they're coming to the fire department, make it work. So I said, okay, yes, boss. So we have a couple of bunk rooms that are, marginal. We have a kitchen facility that is not a commercial kitchen. That being said, medics, ambulance stepped up to the plate. We by far have the cheapest, and I don't mean that in a derogatory fashion, the most economical contract for medical services anywhere around. Probably 1/3 to 1/4 of anybody else's payments. So what's changed? We talked to the finance committee, our EMS captain in the fire department, Tom, who's also a trauma nurse at Freighters, except for today. He'll see what happens with the snowstorm. Decided to write a plan. We gave it to the finance committee about 15 months ago in those hearings, not this October, but the previous October. A very rough draft plan, not a detailed plan at all. But that went before finance. Finance looked at it. We at least let them know that there was a problem looming with staffing on the EMS side of the house. Fire department, not really a problem yet. So finance decided that it wasn't feasible to hire an EMS director in this year, which was approved last year, of course. But to allow this to continue, we have a lot of work to do because, and Andy helped us with this too. And in addition to hiring somebody to formulate this type of really, it's not just a referendum, it's a real project, all the way from public relations to hearings to statutory requirements. We really need an EMS person on board to do that. And what Andy reminded us was that as part of the referendum, it's not just expenditures, but it's also anything that anticipates revenue to support the EMS. So all those things have to be done as part of that referendum. So it's a lot of work, and that's why we're asking to get an EMS head on our department. We compared our budgets in relation to what some other departments have done. Back to the question of what happened since we presented that minor plan to you 15 months ago. What has changed with medics, our paramedic service. And by the way, Delavan's had paramedics for 20 years. So Delavan Rescue Squad went to the paramedic level. We were the first community to have 911 paramedics. That was 20 years ago. Medics, who was subcontracted with us, provided paramedic service. They stepped up to the plate And so I want to give them credit. They assumed the Delavan rescue contract in its entirety when this crisis took place. And that was, close to 11 years ago. So we got a good deal. We've had some staffing problems. I'm not saying it's perfect. But if you compare our contract with others, it's a really good deal. So what's happened? In the last 14 months, Elkhorn went to paramedic service. Delavan Rescue used to service Elkhorn. Delavan Rescue provided paramedic service for everything around us. Elkhorn, which was 7 calls a day, I believe at that time. Elkhorn, Delavan Township, part of the time, they had their own subcontract. Elkhorn, Delavan Township, Darien, Sharon, parts of Walworth, and also into Burlington and some of those areas. So our paramedics either transported somebody to the hospital or rode along with somebody else's ambulance, okay? Today, what's happened is all those communities have municipally based paramedics. So there's only a certain pool of paramedics in this country. Our paramedics are attracted to benefits for their families, and municipal operations just have better benefits. So far, because of that change in the last 15 months, we lost one of our regular paramedics that works for medics, went to Elkhorn with municipal benefits. One young lady went to Delavan Township that will be municipal benefits very shortly, I'm told. We had another paramedic that was also the fire chief in Sharon that went to the Darien Combined Service Operation. So we lost that. And then we had one of our full-time paramedics go to Lake Geneva. So we lost 4 paramedics to other surrounding municipalities because of the benefits. Can't blame them. They're great paramedics, but they went for the benefits. The other thing that's changed since we talked to finance, over a year ago, was we were relying on Delavan Township for a transport vehicle, and they were relying on us for paramedic service. So it was about a wash. We go out there and then they'd come in here. So if they needed a paramedic, we'd send a paramedic. If we needed a transport vehicle when ours was out, they'd come in. It was 6 of one, half dozen other. It was a great relationship. But since April, when they went to paramedic service, roughly speaking, because this ebbs and flows depending on whether our ambulance gets back in time from the hospital. But roughly speaking, what happens with Delavan Township is, I think we've sent our paramedics since April 3 times out there. 3 is what fire chief from the township and I have been able to figure out, because it's not clear depending on whether they come and then they go. Sometimes they just leave. It provided intervention on the scene. We've called them approaching 100 times. So it's now out of balance. What we call in our NIFRS report, the National Reporting System, mutual aid given, mutual aid received, is after April of this year has now, the scales have tipped. So that's the change that I wanted all of you to know since the time we really spoke about this. And I appreciate the mayor and city administrator saying, let's get this out there, not that we need to do something right now, but just so it's no surprise to anybody. What we have to do. So that was the purpose of this situation tonight. One of the members of the finance committee asked me, what about the fire department? So, well, right now we have, 35, I think. And so we're confident that for the time being, that's working out, and we're proud that our members and their families make that sacrifice, and the employers. But what happens with EMS? What happens with EMS is if we have a volunteer firefighter, we have several that are allowed to leave Pentair, stay right, I'll call it. Their employers have been very good and have always allowed them to leave. But most of the time, it's like half hour. Like when Dick Wilson was on the fire department, do whatever you have to do and get back to work. Sometimes it goes longer. So the employers in Delavan, we have people that work for CUNIS, they leave. We have people that work for Pentair that leave, several other employees. But the difference with EMS is it could be 3 hours because they have to go to the hospital. The other thing that's changed, Mayor and the council, since April, and I'll let Tom answer any questions about that, is the trauma centers have changed. So the majority of our transports were to Mercy, Walworth, or Lakeland. Smaller time capsule. Okay, what's happened since around April this year is they closed down trauma centers and some things that they used to offer in Janesville, they don't offer. So now our only ambulance may be going to Milwaukee. So we're asking an employer to let their employee off for 3 hours to go to Milwaukee. And so sometimes it's Janesville, but Janesville's not a lot better. We had a CPR case here. Yeah, we've had several lately, but the one that I remember was involved a situation where they had a lot of cleanup of the ambulance. We sent them to Janesville at 2:30 in the morning with 2 paramedics. Our doctor comes to the scene. So we had a doctor, 2 paramedics, and 3 of our firefighter EMTs on board. Successful CPR save. But that only ambulance for the city was gone for 4 hours in the middle of the night because they were cleaning up the rig in Janesville and trying to get back. So that's the difference. EMS has changed a lot and that time commitment has changed. And those are recent changes. That's since we talked to you last. So what have other communities done? They've done this. We've used some of their figures. We know what it costs them, a lot of money. But we want to get the word out there and we want to do it right. But there is some need to do it fairly quickly because, we only have 1 ambulance most of the time. And when that ambulance is out, there's nobody here to transport. We have EMTs that go to the scene, do a very good job, volunteers, because they go to the scene, they go back to their life. But there's nobody to transport. We have to call the town of Delavan to transport. So during those times, and the question I think you would ask me is how often does that happen when there's no ambulance here? 2 to 3 times a day. So 2 to 3 times a day, there's no ambulance here. You dial 911, you're getting a first response vehicle that our firefighter EMTs are driving, but they're not allowed to transport, nor do they have the time to transport. So that's where we're at. We just don't want any surprises. I appreciate Paul saying the severity of the situation because it's true. So that's it in a nutshell. I'll let Tom or Bob or anybody else. Sean is here too. These are the guys that are getting up in the middle of the night, at least doing first aid and emergency care and interventions before we call the township for the ambulance.
Thank you, Chief.
Questions?
I don't know if anyone has any questions for the chief right now at this point.
I think it's definitely something that we need to look at. I'm just not sure we can approve it tonight.
Oh, no. We wouldn't expect you to even consider it tonight. Yeah, that's certainly clear. Again, the reason that Brian had asked me to do this was just to get it out there. We certainly didn't expect any, never even thought of any approval tonight, but it's a starting point. And we got a lot of work to do on it, a lot of work.
Thank you again, Chief. And Tom, if you want to, I know we've had some, if you want to give you a few minutes as well. Appreciate you and others in attendance here this evening.
Just to give you an idea of where we are in the fire department as far as EMS. So we noticed the gap almost immediately when medics took over from what we had from Delavan Rescue. So we had to figure out a way to kind of bridge that gap because there was an even longer time when 911 went off and getting somebody trained to somebody in need. That was sometimes 18 to 20 minutes. That's a long time. Yes. You have about 7 minutes when your heart stops to live. So we were far beyond that. So we created that with the help of Denise and everyone else to bridge that gap. So now our response times getting people to people is less than 4 minutes. And most of our EMTs are equipped with enough equipment to do what they need to do before anyone else gets there. So that was kind of our stopgap when medics was busy. And even back in 2018, when we finally got this project approved through the state and everything, and that was a 2-year process in itself, we still needed the transport capabilities. So why not go transporting at that time? Well, we didn't have an ambulance for one. And 2, we just don't have enough people to make a legal crew. You need 2 licensed EMTs to get there. And during the daytime, we just didn't have that many people. So it made no sense to try and meet that expectation when we know we couldn't. And then the state asked us why we went for that. We're to the point now where we do have enough people that most of the time we can meet that expectation. However, the ambulance that we got from Lake Geneva will not pass an inspection. It's too old, there's too much wrong with it. There's things that will immediately fail it to transport human beings in it. So that's where the new ambulance comes in. The problem with the new ambulance right now is they're about 2 years out. There are other options in there that I've found. Cheaper options, new ambulances, brand new chassis, rebuilds box to go on the thing. Costs a heck of a lot less and we'll get it this year. However, that doesn't fix right now. If medics were to go away tomorrow, then we have nothing. We have absolutely nothing that can transport people to doctors, what they need. So there are other options out there. We got the grant. We have the budgeted money as well. I'm pretty sure I'm going to find an ambulance that's going to be well under budget. And there's other options out there to buy used ambulances from these reputable companies that have been remodeled and brought up to date. It's like buying a used car. And that will bridge us almost immediately. And then we start the process of switching our license from non-transporting to transporting. And now we don't have to call the township as much. But that takes a lot of work. That's hard to do when you have a full-time job and a full-time family and kids in sports. Run there. A lot of the other things that we need to make that happen, we're getting that as well. The monitors was a huge thing that we needed to get. And now we're getting those. We should have those hopefully within the next couple of weeks. Huge expense that will help us as well. To make us go ALS, that's going to take more money, obviously. The medications alone are $10,000 to $15,000, which we can get cheaper through our medical control and have a program within it that we can switch them out where we're not needing to buy brand new medications, which are hundreds of dollars more when we do that. It's an exchange program. So that's another option we can go to. But our ambulance would be BLS, it would be basic life support. The other day we had a code. Someone was dead, they needed CPR, we started CPR. We don't have the cardiac medications to give for that. So we literally waited for the town of Delavan to get there 10, 15 minutes later while we're just ready to go. And we had 3 paramedics on the scene, 2 nurses, all people that are ALS trained that can easily give those drugs and give them almost every day. So there's something called flexible staffing, which is what we will go to. Here goes our ambulance. Which will allow anyone that has an advanced license to work to that level. That's something that we need to pursue. And if we don't have it, we're not outside of the scope of practice for our license. It's flexible staffing. You work to whatever the highest level person you have there. That's something that medical control has backed us up on. That's something that they said they would help us get equipment, get medications, things like that. That gives us a stopgap if medics decide we can't do this anymore or something else critically happens with the company and we're left with nothing. So that's something we need to do this year as well. Again, lots and lots of work to get that done. A lot of work.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Questions for Tom?
Is medics in pretty good financial shape? You know,
Who knows?
they don't tell you.
They don't tell us. So, I mean, for what it's worth, when I work in Milwaukee, Medic's sister company or partner company or subsidiary, whatever it is Curtis. And there's several other private ambulances that come there as well. Their equipment is better, their equipment is newer, their equipment is more up to date to have brand new ambulances. Curtis and Medics don't, so. Okay.
Thanks again, Tom. Any other questions for Tom? I think, again, I appreciate you and the chief and others in attendance here. I appreciate the chief making himself available for the meeting yesterday, just to talk more about this. And although we've been enlightened through the budget process, there's a lot more, I think, communication that needs to take place in really educating the public, and hopefully that starts with some of our citizens watching tonight's proceedings on our website and other means, and getting some insight that way. I would say that obviously we've got the contract, so we can figure this out. I think that what kind of came of the meeting yesterday is that this is a big project. I mean, other municipalities that have gone through this have done it for a year, as Alderman Wilson had pointed, certainly longer than 4.5 months time. And if we want to do it right, be successful and get the citizens behind it, it's educating them more about everything that you do on a daily basis and how it impacts all of us, whether it impacts them directly, it impacts the community as a whole. And one of the things that I know was, and again, Alderman Wilson alluded to this, and I appreciate the finance committee and yourself and the chief working through some of the budget stuff and the equipment and at least laying the groundwork for advancements in this area. I know one of the things that was shared as an attachment with each of the aldermen in their packets was the recent municipality magazine, and I know the mayor of Milton, so I plan to reach out to her just to see how long of a process that was. But it was remarkable to read how 10 municipalities from 3 different counties came together to come up with a fire/EMS district that the municipality magazine really quoted as what potentially could be the model for other communities, not only throughout Wisconsin, but throughout the country. And so I know, although Walworth County hasn't done anything to this point, I know their meeting is, I think there was an article on the front page of our most recent local paper that they'll meet again in January 19th. But clearly, you know, I know that there's a need, and I appreciate the fact that the GOC can take a closer look at this. In addition to that, I plan to reinstate the Public Safety Committee. It hasn't met since I've become mayor. I know there was discussions that took place on these important issues, and so some of those people are in this very room, and I think that's another avenue to where we can talk about this and really come up with a good rollout and a plan that addresses the important needs that our citizens rely on, and having to be a part of that process and educating the public and formulating a plan similar to what we saw was done recently in Whitewater, and Jefferson is going to a recent referendum, and certainly other communities, Alcorn in the past. So thank you for being a part of the process, educating us again during the finance process and the budget processes of the past, educating us again here tonight, and now looking to take it beyond, further into the community.
Sure. One more thing,
Yeah.
just so we have, you know, transparency and everything, the current contract as it's set up with medics, they're not meeting. They haven't met for several years, so they're supposed to provide a daytime ambulance, and they have not been for several years now. So that's also something to look at. That's one of the reasons why we have such a problem with EMS as well, just because the need is greater, because that second ambulance is not available, even though the contract calls for it. So that's been going on since before COVID. So you asked how the business was, so that kind of plays into it as well.
Sure.
a little disappointed on how long the ambulance is out.
Yeah. There's other options for new chassis, new ambulances and stuff like that, but most of the companies that build ambulances, they build them. They take the chassis and they build the box and they do it, and it takes a long time to do that, and they're waiting for parts. But there's several other good options out there with 2023 chassis. So,
Sean, it looked like did you have something that you wanted to add to the mix here?
Just kind of real quick.
Yeah, if you wanna come to the podium, then we can pick up your remarks from the website.
So I just kind of went through this with Williams Bay, where we started with a bunch of EMTs, we got down to about 2 to 3, and I was responding from Delavan to Williams Bay for most of their calls. So their average response time was 15 minutes, because they're waiting for me. And when I went to the village board there and I said, we can't keep doing this, that took about a year to go through everything and get to the referendum that they just had with Fontana, where now it's a combined service and it's way, way better off than where they were. Just to kind of go back to Chief again on some urgency, we have EMTs right now that can respond if the ambulance is out. But it's not many. And as time goes on and they start finding jobs or getting into other things where they can't respond, or they just get burned out, we may not have that. So I just kind of wanted to push that urgency thing.
Thank you, thank you. Well, oh, yes,
Sorry.
Chief. Yeah,
I also wanted everybody to know, you folks know it, but I'm not sure the citizens are totally aware that this council and this finance committee has been extremely supportive of public safety. So I don't want anybody to get the idea, you know, we have a ladder truck that's 33 years old, they're supposed to be replaced in 25. This council, previous councils ordered a ladder truck. Unfortunately, it's a 3-year purchase like an ambulance. But I want the citizens to know this finance committee and this council have supported public safety. We asked for defibrillators that were reconditioned. You folks said, no, buy new ones. We asked for an ambulance, it's in the budget. You'll be seeing that hopefully in a couple of weeks. So I don't want anybody to get the idea that you folks are not supportive of public safety. Absolutely are. Absolutely are. And we have that ball rolling. We're, you know, a little bit behind other communities, but we just want to keep the ball rolling. But thank you for your support. We appreciate that.
thank you, Chief, appreciate it, and I think it's both the comments here tonight, and the meeting that we had, and thank you again for your time yesterday to meet on this important issue that the support and commitment is to continue the lines of communications and meet and talk about it at a committee level. And again, I'm excited to bring back the public safety committee. I think not only this issue, but other issues that I know we face, whether it's the fire department and the police department, those are all important issues. So thanks again for those attended and for your comments and your willingness to continue the process here. With that, we'll 9.4, consider amending section 4.2.1 of the compensation and benefits manual of the city of Delavan regarding new employees.
Here, I'll move to approve the changes in the compensation and benefit policy, section 4.2.1, the new employees as proposed.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. At this point, item number 10, again, public comments. I would ask that citizens may address the chair at this portion of the meeting and limit your comments for no more than 2 minutes. I know we didn't hear any public comments at the beginning. Good, and we can move on to item number 11, which is suggested future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items at this time? As I always say, if not, you can always approach myself or the city administrator and city clerk, and we're happy to put an item on the agenda for discussion. There being no further business this evening, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So move. There's a motion and a second. All in favor of adjournment, signify by stating aye.
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. Thanks, everyone. And I would say have a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody, and please be safe, everyone. And be safe with the big snowstorm that we've got going on.
Barely a rumor.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.